everyone, Morgan here. So today I want to give some top tips about living off grid, and I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about how hard it is, but then there's a lot of people who think it's really easy. I think that there's a middle ground. I think that there's a little bit more work involved than just living off the grid. Electricity and water just flowing to your house and you just pay for these services. Being able to take out trash easily. Okay, so let's get to the tips. Okay, first of all, energy. You need some type of electrical energy. Now, you don't need it, but you do want to look at your options. Of course, I think solar is one of the best alternative energy options out there, but you have to understand how the solar works. It's not just, throwing a couple solar panels up and being done with it. It's a whole connection process. All right, so in order to have, an effective solar system, you would have your solar panels to the charge controller to the batteries to the inverter, and then the inverter would be connected to the setup, in your RV house, whatever it is. Now, there are other systems, but that's kind of the basic system with that. And we'll go into a much deeper video when it's talking about solar at another time. But that's basics of that. So it's really not as simple as just throwing up some solar panels and just calling it a day. There's a little bit more to it than that. You really want to look at how much energy do you actually need? What do you need to power? And for how long? Like if you're trying to run a freeze dryer, you're going to need a lot of solar, you're going to need a lot of batteries. And it's not so much you need a lot of solar, you really need like a lot of batteries. Anyway, so figure out how much energy you need and what exactly do you need to power with that energy. The next is going to be food. So some type of off-grid food. How are you going to supply food? Are you going to have a garden? Are you going to do small game hunting, fishing, like wild edibles? How are you getting, food to you? Of course, if you could still use the grocery stores, as long as those are still available to you. But if you were really totally 100% off-grid, how would you sustain your off-grid life when it came to food? And do you have those skills necessary? The next one is going to be waste. The first waste that I'm going to talk about is the bathroom waste. A composting toilet, I think, is such a great option for off-grid living. We've been doing it for the past 6 months, and honestly, I don't even want to go back to a septic. I think that the composting toilet is just fantastic. I love it so much. And then the next waste that we're talking about is trash. What are you going to do? Are you going to have a burn barrel? And then outside of that, what are you going to do with the rest of your trash? You're going to try to reuse some of it? Are you just going to take it to a dump? Is there a collection somewhere? What are you going to do with the rest of your waste? So the two types of waste is something that we need to consider. Next one is going to be water. How are you getting your water sourced? Are you going to dig a well? Wells can be expensive depending on where you are. Are you going to truck in water? How are you going to truck in water? Is there a local water supply area? Is there like a, river, streams, whatever that you can go and collect water? Collecting water takes time and effort and energy, and depending on, if you're going to do it on a small scale, large scale, whatever it is, right? So the next thing that we want to keep in mind is heating and cooling. How are you going to heat and cool? Solar could do some air conditioning, but it's really not feasible to do air conditioning running for all day long. Even in small spurts, it takes a lot of energy to run air conditioning. Are you using propane for your heater? My suggestion would be trying to get a solar energy, some sort of solar or wind energy, alternative energy to run your heater and fridge and things like that. So you're not relying on propane, which we currently are right now. And I really one day want to get totally off the propane because that's one less thing that I have to worry about when, if our solar can do it, then that's great, right? So the next one's going to be self-sufficiency and more specifically animal care. So when it comes to self-sufficiency, you're probably going to want eggs at the very least, having chickens. Do you know how to care for chickens? It's fairly simple to care for chickens. There's lots of information online and there's lots of ways to care for chickens. It's very easy, okay? Gardening, all the self-sufficiency ways. So, you're going to raise pigs, are you going to have cows, are you going to, especially milk cows, cows or goats, and do you know how to actually get milk from goats or cows, and what about transportation needs? That's another consideration. You're going to have a horse, or then you have to feed the horse. What about a bicycle? Bicycle's good, and then there's maintenance for the bike and that kind of thing. So really, it's a whole self-sustaining lifestyle. You're pretty much going to be taking care of everything yourself. That's what being self-sufficient and kind of living off-grid really is. It's being self-sufficient. It's living off the grid, as best as you can. And the next one's going to be, like internet. You're still going to have internet. A lot of people, I think, when they think of off-grid, they think, you have to throw away your phone or you have to get off the internet. I think that, if you're really going to go off-grid and, totally get rid of, the internet and all that, that's fantastic. More power to you. But a lot of us do still rely on the internet for a lot of things, and there's lots of ways that we can protect our safety while, with our internet and our phone to keep people from, invading our privacy. There's lots of ways. So if you still want to be connected to the internet, you still want to use your phone, there's lots of ways to protect your privacy in the process, and you may want to look into that if you still want internet, TV, all that. That's really scratching the surface of off-grid self-sufficiency living. I would really love to hear your thoughts and ideas. That's just covering the very basics of your needs. Your comfort when it comes to heating and cooling. You got to eat, you got to drink. You got to take care of the maintenance of everything. Do you know how to maintain the solar energy? All these things. You got to know how to do everything, essentially. So, the off-grid and self-sufficiency life is slightly harder, but I think that when you get right down to it, it's really worth it. You're learning a lot of skills, you're getting back to the land, you're doing things that, normal people just aren't, and you're getting back to ways of living that you can still have electricity because of alternative energy. You can still have a refrigerator and, freezer because you have, these alternative energies. But we have to also understand that a lot of these alternative energies do rely on other sources like the batteries and, the inverters and the charge controllers that something can go wrong. So there's lots of things to consider when it comes to off-grid. And we just have to consider our options, what type of alternative energy. I could go on and on about this, but I will have a video in the very future. Husband and I will be talking about alternative energy, solar specifically. So I would love to hear your thoughts about going off grid and what off grid means to you. Thank you all so much for watching. Conquer tomorrow by preparing today. And don't forget to check out all the links down below in my description to my website and Patreon and all that goodness. I hope you all are staying safe, staying well, and staying prepared. Talk to y'all later. Bye.